All right, big 49ers update, and this is a positive one for a change. Talanoa Hufanga is expected to return to action on Sunday against the Rams. He is going to be a full participant in the practice that is beginning here at the facility in just a few minutes. And if all goes right this week, then Hufanga should be back out on the playing field for the first time since tearing his ACL against Tampa Bay last November. Now, remember that the biggest play for the Minnesota Vikings against the 49ers victimized two 49ers safeties. And we could talk all about the 49ers needing a cornerback to cover Justin Jefferson on that play. But bottom line is they didn't have a cornerback covering Jefferson on that play. So we saw George Odom and Jair Brown covering Jefferson on the ill-fated very long touchdown. I would assume that Hufanga, when he returns to start for the 49ers, will replace George Odom, who's a special teams ace for this team, and a backup safety. So Hufanga and Jair Brown, probably San Francisco's two top safeties right now. Remember, though, that they did play Malik Mustafa, the rookie, on a few possessions. That was not a result of them benching somebody on Sunday. It was a result of them trying to get Mustafa worked into the mix because, as we saw during training camp in the preseason, he's too talented to not find a way to play at some point this season. So Mustafa becoming more and more of an option for the 49ers. Rams are extremely beaten up this week. So it's one of those things where I've likened their situation to the 2020 49ers situation. Just a very long injury list very early in the season. Plus, they don't have Aaron Donald anymore because he retired. So the 49ers are favored this week. They're getting Talanoa Hufanga back. Obviously, no Debo and no Christian McCaffrey for San Francisco. So they're shorthanded as well. But everybody on the active roster, except for Debo Samuel, is going to be practicing in full today for the 49ers. And I do think that is significant. I was walking around the locker room today, had a couple good intel moments. Talked a little bit to Jake Moody, who is kicking the ball really, really well for the 49ers. That's something to call out as a positive for San Francisco. He got a lot of confidence last year. Remember, he had missed the game winner in Cleveland, then he missed early on against the Minnesota Vikings in the second quarter. Remember in Minnesota last year, so I'm not talking about this year's game, Kyle Shanahan called on Moody for, a 54, 55-yard field goal late. I think it was 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter after those two straight misses, and Moody drilled it as a rookie. Well, that faith that Shanahan put in Jake Moody, I think, has turned around and has helped him now, where we've seen him as a rookie really, really deliver. I also got a quick chance to talk to Renardo Green, who played a couple snaps for the 49ers on Sunday when they went into dime packages, and didn't mess up on those two snaps. It was hard to glean anything all too positive or all too negative from them, but I think that does show that Renardo Green is working his way toward a larger role as he integrates into the system. And I asked him, how to feel out there, and he said it was just like practice. That's what any coach, any fan of the 49ers would like to hear. That means that the 49ers are drilling it right into some of these rookies, and if stepping onto the game field isn't all that different from what they're doing on the practice field, that means that the program and the system is yielding results. All right, Nick Bosa spoke in the locker room. Let's take a look at video of his press conference at his locker.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely elevated his game. I wouldn't say his preparation is any different than it has been because he's always been on top of that. But he's playing at an elite level in everything he does.
What is it like when you guys watch the film and see him kind of flying around, like reactions and everything?
It's kind of just makes us want to do better ourselves because if you do your job and get it turned back or whatever the situation is, he's going to be there. So it's definitely motivation. If we could all play closer to how he's playing, then we'll be just all right.
He's been active with his punch this year. Is that showing up on film more this year, him trying to punch out the ball than it did?
I think that's one thing that's continued to get better with him. And this year it's every tackle he makes. So beware.
Nick, it's nice that your offense no longer has to deal with Aaron Donald. How would you describe his career?
Dominant, and he did it the right way. He was the best in the game for, what was it, 10 years? And then called it, got out healthy, and that's what everybody's dream is. So it's been fun to watch him. We're glad we don't have to play him anymore.
Nick, you had back-to-back plays against Darmstadt. You got a sack outside spin rush, and then you threw him down on a screen pass. Which is, I assume, maybe the answer is the sack. This one is more satisfying. Getting behind the sack or dumping him on his butt.
I think getting a sack is, but I think just winning rushes is something that kind of builds your confidence. And going into half, I was feeling good, so that helped propel me into the next half. So they both felt good, and it's a good player. So whenever you could beat a good player, it's good.
Have you seen some of the numbers around the league that indicate that pass offense is way down through 2 weeks versus previous years?
Yeah, it seems like it's a little weird year. It seems like fantasy people are angry.
Do you have any theories, though, as to why? Is that like a preseason
Well, there's been a lot of
trend?
injuries to offensive lines throughout the league. I've noticed the Rams are getting some guys back this week, but they had some injuries. I think Seattle had some injuries. I think Tampa had injuries. So there's been injuries. There's a lot of receiver injuries. So whenever that happens and you have backups in there, it's going to be less productive for sure.
Nick, yesterday, Devo on his podcast talked about the team and how good you guys have been over the last 4 or 5 years. Do you feel that urgency this year, as if it's now or never, to get back to where we want to be and finish the deal?
Yeah, I think that's always urgency here. I think that's why we're always a good team, is because the standard is high, and right when you're not living up to it, it's not panic. I wouldn't say it's panic, but it's definitely intense focus on getting back to it. So yeah, nothing changes. I don't think thinking about the Super Bowl now helps anybody.
When you guys have key offensive players out, how much do you guys as defense kind of even want to ramp it up more so they don't maybe feel as much pressure as they would having CMC and Devo out?
Yeah, I think we could do a much better job of playing complementary football, offense, defense, and special teams. When our offense isn't doing great, we need to pick it up for them, or sudden change, stuff like that, and vice versa. So, yeah, we're without Debo and Christian, but we have plenty of playmakers.
What's the biggest key to limiting third down conversions for the other team?
I'd say just being tied in with the back end and the front. Last game, there was a couple where we had a good rush going and we busted on the back end, or vice versa. So yeah, just being tied in and everybody just being more efficient on doing their job.
I guess that might be part of it. I think the whole punching the ball out thing is, it's all meant. First of all, it's something that you got to practice every single day to where it becomes muscle memory, because things are moving too quick out there on game day. 1,000,000 miles a minute, or whatever the saying is. But you got to make sure that you can slow the game down enough to where you can even think about punching the ball out instead of just trying to get a guy on the ground, right? And so, I think the main part about that when I preach it to my teammates is just continuing to practice it day in and day out, so where it's muscle memory, not even thinking about it.
You made so many plays in that game, but after the game, you mentioned, I believe it was, look, I could have done more. There were a couple plays I maybe I left out there. After you watch the film, you still feel the same way?
1,000%. There's always, I've yet to see anybody, especially myself, play a perfect game. There's plays I still do want back. It's about just taking it one play at a time out there. It's not going to be perfect ever. We still had a chance to win the game at the end, especially defensively, to get off the field on that last drive. That's the one that probably hurts the most. And you got to tip your cap to Sam for, taking them down there on that drive. But, it's just taking it one play at a time and making sure you leave no doubt.
But Nick was saying he feels like the spot